Hello everyone, Neil Tappin here from Golf Monthly and welcome to West Hill Golf Club and this video on 7 golf gear tips about how you should build the perfect bag for your game. Now, as you probably know, you've got 14 clubs to choose from and finding the right lineup means you have to make some really important decisions all the way through the bag. So we're going to talk about what some of those decisions are and what some of the factors are that you should be considering when thinking about the composition of your set as a whole. Guys, if you're new to the Golf Monthly channel, please do hit the subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss any of our videos. Hit the like button if you like what you're watching. But let's take a look at these 7 golf gear tips and how you should build the right bag for your game. Okay, so the first area to talk about is gapping, and the general advice here would be that you want to have even distance gaps all the way through your set, but you've only got 14 clubs to play with, and I think for the majority of golfers that means there's going to have to be a compromise somewhere along the line, and that tends to either be at the bottom end of the bag with your wedges or at the top end of the bag with your fairway woods, hybrids and long irons. So it's that gap between driver and your first iron that you really need to think very, very carefully about. And what I would say is that it's always worth having a backup driving option, so something that you know you can hit consistently, reliably well off the tee other than your driver. So those days where either driver's going wrong or you've got hazards in the fairway just at the length that you hit your driver, having a second driving option is a great idea. Now if you're thinking about how to do that, it's worth testing out some of these new driving irons that have come on the market. The manufacturers are building in a lot of forgiveness and playability into these modern day driving irons. They are well worth testing, and then once you've worked out what your best second driving option is, then you need to figure out what the long clubs you can hit most consistently off the deck are. If you're a slightly faster swinger, better ball striker, you might want something that gives you ultimate control. If you're looking for as much forgiveness as possible, there's some great options out there as well. But the key is, if you are going through a fitting, make sure you hit the ball off the deck. Try and test things out from different lies as well. It could make all the difference to the composition at the top end of the bag. That brings me on to the gapping at the bottom end of the bag, and again there's quite a lot to consider here. The first thing to say is the loft of modern day irons. They are tending to get slightly stronger, and that can potentially leave you with a bit more of a gap between your first specialist wedge and your pitching wedge. So if you don't think about that gap, I mean, you need to find out, you need to go out, hit a few shots, find out how big that gap is, and if it's too big, then perhaps think about filling it with an extra wedge. The other thing to say, and I think this is really important, is the importance of getting the right bounces on your wedges. And this is about marrying up your technique with your wedges. So I think for a lot of golfers, they'll go into a pro shop, have a waggle with a few wedges and pick up something they really like the look of. It's something we all want to do, but the truth is, the bounce on the wedge actually makes a huge difference to the way in which it performs, the way it feels through impact, and ultimately your all-round consistency with your wedges. And there are, of course, lots of different shots that you need to hit with your wedges. So for your most lofted wedge, the one that you're going to hit a lot of chip shots around the green with, bunker shots with, you might need a slightly different bounce angle in that to help you play those different shots. There's an awful lot to consider. And as we say with a lot of these, I mean, the most prudent thing would be to go through it with the help of a pro, somebody who can look at your technique, look at the different shots that you're trying to play and marry up those bounce angles and the loft angles in exactly the right way for you, so that you have the right gapping, but that you also have the versatility that you need at the bottom end of the bag. Now the driver is likely to be the single most expensive club in your bag, and it pays to really think closely about what you want it to do, and in particular what you don't want it to do. Now if you go through a good fitting, you should be able to find a few more yards. That would be my experience. But I think the key to finding a driver that you fall in love with out on the golf course is going through and thinking about the playability of it. How is it going to help you find more fairways? Now, if you are someone that tends to hit a strong draw or loses the ball out towards the right hand side, you need to say that to your fitter during a fitting, because it might well be that on the day you're hitting it perfectly, and the fitter can just dial the driver in to help prevent the bad shot from really costing you while you're out on the golf course. Likewise, if you tend to play your golf best when you're just able to make a really smooth swing at the ball, then something that just is going to pop the ball up in the air without too much effort, again, could help you play your best golf. So there is a few things to think about here, and don't forget the importance of the looks and the feel. They're the sort of slightly less quantifiable elements. The other elements you'll be able to work out on a launch monitor. the looks and the feel are less quantifiable, but actually they do make a big difference. And so finding something that you love the look of, that you love the feel of, and also helps you keep the ball on the fairway is the key to finding a driver that will stay in the bag for a long time. The next thing to consider is the golf courses that you tend to play. I think for a lot of golfers out there, they'll play 90%, 80% of their golf on the same course. So it's worth thinking about some of the unique challenges to that golf course. For instance, how thick is the rough? So if you find yourself often having to play quite long shots from fairly heavy rough, you'll need a club to help you do that. And the truth is, from a lie like the one I'm facing here, it's really, a long iron's not going to do it. So it's going to either have to be probably at best a 7-iron, or I might be able to get away with hitting a hybrid. Now hybrids from this sort of lie, they do have that bit of extra meat behind the ball. They tend to be able to get through the grass and provide a good strike. So in this sort of situation, if I've got 200 or so yards to the green, I reckon I could probably just about chase a hybrid somewhere quite close to the green. So it could make a big difference to me if I'm faced with that scenario quite a bit out on the golf course. So it's all of those things that play into the type of golf course that you play. The other thing to consider on this front is the sand. So sand can differ quite a bit from golf course to golf course. The sand, for instance, that you get in links bunkers tends to be quite different to the sand that you get in inland golf course bunkers. And you might need a wedge setup to help you deal with that. So think about the challenge of the specific golf course that you tend to play the vast majority of the time. Unless you play a lot of golf at a lot of different places, it might well be that you tailor your set to the challenge that you face. So the next area to think about is your putter, and there's quite a bit to consider here. The first thing being the arc of your stroke. Now there will be an arc to your stroke, but some players are more straight back and through, whilst others have a stronger arc, and you'll want to find a putter that complements your style of stroke. If you're unsure about what to go for, speak to a pro. They'll be able to guide you as to which models might be right for you. And then beyond that, you also need to think about the sort of feel that you want. And it might well be that you play your golf all the way through the year on different types of greens, and that you want something with a slightly firmer feel to sort of suit when the grass is a little bit longer. Alternatively, you might play on a sort of link style, really firm, fast golf course with fast greens, and you want a really ultra soft feel. Again, the pro will be able to guide you as to which putters offer which types of feel. And if you can get both of those elements right, there's no reason why you shouldn't find a flat stick that really complements your stroke and also provides the exact feel that you're looking for. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about is your irons. And obviously, when it comes to your irons, there's so many factors to consider. And it's worth pointing out that there is going to be a bit of a trade-off between finding an iron model that provides maximum control over your trajectory, over your ball flight, and over your end distances, versus something geared up for overall power and forgiveness. And that combination is something you're going to have to work out in your own mind. What I would say is it is always worth considering, at least, the idea of a blended set. So something in the short irons that provides that control, and something in the long irons that provides distance and forgiveness, because if you get it right, you should have a set of irons that no matter whether you're looking down on a 4-iron or a wedge, you feel confident. And ultimately, all of the tips in this video are about finding clubs that you feel confident using, because there, as I mentioned earlier on, there is nothing worse than carrying a club in your bag and not using it. You know, many of us have done it over the years. It's very frustrating, and then you get this realization that actually that club, you just don't feel confident using it. So when you do think about your iron setup, and if you are going for a fitting, make sure you go in there with the idea of walking away with something that's really going to help you play better golf. I think that's particularly applicable when it comes to the irons. So there you have it, that's our list of 7 golf gear tips to help you find the right 14 clubs for your bag. Guys, before you go, please do hit the pause button. Let me know if you think there's anything I've forgotten in this video. There's quite a lot to consider when it comes to choosing the right combination of 14 clubs. So if you do have any thoughts, please do post them below. We'd be really interested to hear what you have to say. The last thing to say is, if you haven't done already, please do hit the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any of our videos. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed the video. But for now, from West Hill, it's goodbye.